Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
Talking hockey. So glad you could join us. See, nobody jumped on yet because I haven't sent out the thing. Todd, are you ready? Wings playoff chances. Are they gasp? Soft? How's that? Is that good? How does that sound, Todd? Is that good?
It sounds great. And if you need me to kill some time here where Mike would, I can talk about sausages, bacon, whatever it takes. I want to move the show along while you're composing that tweet, which is probably going to go viral.
Well, it will probably go viral. See, you know what? Hold on. There's one more that I got to get to right now. So I got to send out the What the Puck thing. If this thing would load, that would be pretty cool. No, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Wings playoff chances. MHSAA Wings playoff chances. This is fantastic. This is great. There's David right there. We're going to get to it in just a second. MHSAA finals weekend, congested East. All right. So here's the question that I have for you guys tonight. Good evening, Tom. Good evening, Dave. And I'm going to ask you guys. And we were talking about this earlier today on Woodward. The old bugaboo has kind of reared its head. And do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about, are the Red Wings, don't say it too loud, soft. Are the Red Wings soft? And we were joking about it a couple weeks ago. Was this the Ottawa series from 2 years ago redo? Was it, Brady Tkachuk breaking their spirit, taking their soul, and then the Red Wings just went like this from the rest of the way? So was the home and home with Columbus that type of situation? I'm not ready to go that far yet. They lost to a pretty good hockey team last night. Now, I didn't watch the first period. While so many of you guys were telling me how bad the first period was, so many of you guys were telling me how bad the first period was. I didn't get a chance to see it. I saw that they lost 2-1. Okay. Hold on. Wings playoff. Now I got to do the tweet. Wings playoff chances. The soft stuff popped back up. Sorry, this is one of those things that you guys bear with me. Come on, it's me. MHSAA finals weekend. Hockey finals weekend. It's not a terrible loss, but I think one thing that we've seen in recent days is some calls go against them. And the reaction, I'm sorry, I've called that out for years. I used to laugh, especially 20 years ago, when I used to have people call me and tell me that the league was out to get the Red Wings. Do you remember that? That's real. Like, I lived that. There were multiple people that literally would call in. Bettman hates the Wings. This official hates the Wings. The league's out to get them, which makes what the Red Wings did between 1997 and 2008 even more impressive, because they did it in a league that hated them and was like plotting against them. And yet somehow, some way, against all the odds, they still found a way to win 4 Stanley Cups. Can you see my tongue firmly planted in my cheek? I think it's going too far to say they're soft. Would you like to see some pushback? Yep. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times. This goes back to the Mike Babcock kind of message before the 07-08 season, a season in which I might add They won the Stanley Cup. They won the Stanley Cup. And do you guys remember what the message was? Toughness is a choice. You choose to be tough. I think that's a brilliant line. You make the choice. Like, all jokes aside, it's up to you. Do you want to be tough? Okay, cool. Well, be tough. Right? I'm not being funny. Like, that's because if you remember, why did that come up? Well, the Ducks won a Stanley Cup, and they were kind of a throwback squad, if you remember. Brian Burke had a bunch of guys that were going to go out there and, punch you in the mouth, so to speak. I mean, legitimately, they did. So it was one of those things where, to be honest with you, were the Red Wings soft in 07? I wouldn't say they were soft. Do you know what I would say? The Ducks were harder. It didn't come out the way I wanted. I hope you guys can understand that. So at this point in time, what do we do? Do you know what they look like to me? This is going to sound crazy. Do you know what they look like to me? And I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. This is a crazy concept, but I got to shoot straight. You know what they look like? They look like a team with a young nucleus. And what do teams with a young nucleus have in common? Inconsistencies. A little over a month ago, the Habs went through that stretch where they were like 16-3-1 or whatever the hell it was. I mean, it was insane. On a night after night basis, it was like, oh, it's coming together. Here they go. And then they had a big losing streak. And now all of a sudden they've won 5 games again. And they're right smack dab in the middle of the race. Ottawa has been like this. Detroit had the streak. Then they lost. Then they got hot again. Now they have another streak. Wow. It's almost like that's what happens with young teams. And I get it. I'm going to say it again. I don't want to minimize anybody's earnestness in wanting to make the playoffs this year. Like, seriously, in years gone by, I laughed at you and I said, you don't understand how this works. We talked about that a few days ago, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Yes, the clock of expectations has started. Steve was hired April 19th, 2019. Do I think this is heading in the right direction? I think you're a moron if you can't see that. But I understand after that 5-year waiting period that listen, I told you. I know I'm an idiot and everything, but I told you this is what the league does. This is what general managers in the league say all the time. The average person doesn't understand it takes 5 years. So 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. This is 24, 25. Like, yes, the clock starts. You should have expectations. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that they aren't going to be infinitely better next year and the year beyond. All one has to do is look at what's in the system right now. But I am not going to crap on one human being out there that says, yeah, I get it, but I'm going to be really disappointed if they don't make the playoffs this year. I get it. Where you and I may part ways is if you start with that, this isn't working, Steve Yzerman's a joke, we should fire him. That's where you and I will part ways. Has this perhaps taken longer than it should? Well, you could make that argument. You could make that argument. You might, Rabbit, you might. Hi, Mike. Sorry, Mike. I wish Mike could have joined us. Well, I'll see you at the grill tomorrow. But you guys, look at the system right now. There's a ton in this system. All right, I'm going to get to all your comments because there's so many already. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Let me scroll up. Pure Vida. I hope Pura Vida. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Listen, it's simple. Yes, they soft. So what's the pushback going to be? That team 2 years ago went down the drain. Do they need to make that choice that Mike Babcock talked about? I think so. I think they need to give it back. I'm tired. I'm exhausted at complaining about officials and complaining about things being missed. I'm exhausted. I am. So you know what you do? I'm not saying you go back to the days of the Bruise Brothers, but do you know what you do? All jokes aside, you push back. You hit back. You punch back. Okay, cool. You don't want to police it? We'll police it. And I'm not saying drop the gloves every 2 seconds. The days of the bench clearing brawl, that stuff's over. And I get that you don't exactly have a quote unquote policeman on the squad either. Okay? I get it. Totally. I'm down. If you go back to 07, 08, remember McCarty had just come back from Calgary. How many policemen were on that team? And there was a mettle and a tenacity about that team that was different from the year before, that was different from that team that lost to the Ducks, right? Finished number 1 overall, won the Stanley Cup. Game, set, match. So, yeah, I do think, to quote Mike Babcock, and I don't like to quote Mike Babcock too often, mind you, I think it's a choice. And instead of sitting there, woe is me, and the collective media talking about liberties being taken, and I pray to God that the league is out to get the Red Wings crap doesn't start again. I really do. Do something about it. Good evening, guys. They're diminishing. They need the obvious to win. Buffalo to Arizona last year. If they don't get a center, the season is over. The Wings are soft. How's their defense doing lately? I didn't watch, look, again, Tim, to your point, I didn't watch a game last night. But from the sounds of it, from what everybody was saying about the first period, is it wasn't pretty. Now they battened down the hatches. I didn't see, and I watched the last 2 periods. I didn't see the issues that a lot of people were at least proclaiming in the chat. So we'll see. I'll see you at the grill tomorrow, my friend. Absolutely. Mike and I are going to, Mike couldn't join us. Shocker. He's at a hockey game right now. And then we're both going to be at hockey all weekend. More on that coming up in a minute. Tom takes players longer to get to the NHL. Tom, I ranted about it the other day. I'll rant about it again today. The average human being has no idea. If you're just a sports fan, I was getting into a conversation a couple days ago with a guy that was trying to compare how quickly teams turned it around in the National Football League. I shit you not. I'm not making this up. I was having a conversation with this fellow, and then, of course, you know how it is. You can't have rational conversation. I'm dumb. I'm, the name calling and everything. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't help you if you can't understand the not just little differences, massive differences. And how quickly one can turn it around in the National Football League and how it might take longer, especially if you don't have a lot in your system, as the Red Wings didn't when Steve Yzerman came here in 2019. So I'll do it again quickly, although chances are if you're watching this show, you're a hockey fan, okay? So I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the choir right now, but let me try to explain it this way. Todd Losey is a stud, absolute stud, edge rusher out of Troy State. See what I did it again, Todd. Out of Troy State. The Detroit Lions want to bolster their front four. We're in agreement. The Detroit Lions want to bolster their front four. They draft Todd Losey, 28th overall. Some people are saying, I can't believe Todd Losey went that long. Todd Losey can come into the Detroit Lions and provide almost immediate dividend. Now, with rookies, you know the routine. This, everything in between, right? But by the end of the year, he's not really a rookie anymore because he's got 17 games under his belt. And oh, by the way, he's playing with a lot of talent around him. But he's providing immediate dividends. Compare that to a kid that you take 16th overall. We're not talking Sidney Crosby. We're not talking Connor McDavid. We're not talking Bedard. Okay? We're talking about a kid that is probably going to go play another year of junior. At least. Okay? Then maybe, if he's a USHL guy, maybe he goes to college for a year or two. Maybe he goes to the AHL for a year or two. If he's a Swede or a Finn, maybe he goes and plays in one of the elite leagues over there. You're not even seeing this guy until he's, get ready for it, more often than not, 22, 23 years old. You'll get some rare exceptions, right? Mo Sider, Lucas Raymond. But more often than not, you're not even seeing this guy for 4 or 5 years. That's if he makes it. And so when I hear people do that, I don't mean to sound condescending, but I made this comment. Tell me you don't know anything about hockey without saying I don't know anything about hockey. Make a comparison like that. There's no comparison to a 22, 23, sometimes 24-year-old kid, depending on how many senior and COVID years he had, to an 18-year-old. There's no comparison. None. So then you wonder why multiple general managers have told me, and Steve Yzerman was not one of them, okay? Sorry, I can't give up my sources. One in the Eastern Conference, one in the Western Conference said, people don't understand. It takes 5 years. You're talking about 18-year-old kids. And then the year after that, 18-year-old kids. And then the year after that, 18-year-old kids. And that's counting on if you hit on all your draft picks, right? It looks pretty good right now for Steve Yzerman. But I'm going to say it again. Now that I got that all off my chest, I want to be crystal clear with this. I'm not going to chastise any of you if you say we should be in the playoffs by now. I can't. I would be a hypocrite. I thought it was crazy the first few years to do it, and I said it as much many, many times. But by now, yeah, I can't blame you for saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying that, okay? Just to reiterate, where you and I may part ways is if Yzerman's got to go and all that stuff. Well, we part ways. I had a guy tell me today, as a matter of fact, it took longer than it did in Tampa. Yes, it did. It did. Do you know what he started with in Tampa? Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos. How's that? How are those for nice building blocks, right? Phenomenal Hall of Fame forward, phenomenal Hall of Fame blue liner. Okay. I'll start my rebuild with that. So I get the frustration. And a lot of it is play induced. I'm going to say the same thing. At least Mike and I have been very consistent about this since before Four Nations, you guys. And this is information that is available. Are you guys familiar with Tankathon? Do you guys know Tankathon? Perhaps if you're a draft beatnik, you're familiar with Tankathon. So let's do this together, Todd. I always say Google is your friend. You ready? Google is your friend. Go to tankathon.com, the NHL site, and you see the mock draft. You see the draft order according to standings. Click on the little tab that says More. And under More, you will see remaining schedule strength. And this is something Mike and I were talking about on January on this show. The Red Wings schedule is an absolute bear the rest of the way, comparatively speaking. Comparatively speaking. A bear. The strength of schedule remaining for this team is just under a 600 winning percentage. 593. Now you compare that to some of the teams that, now suddenly are in the mix for the remaining wild cards, right? Montreal, 547. Boston, 546. Tampa, 537. Ottawa, the second easiest schedule the rest of the way, at 530. So there are a lot of variables right now that are pointing to this team not making the playoffs. I hate to say it, guys, but I don't know. Mike and I said it a month and a half ago, if that makes sense. All right, I want to get some of your comments as well. It's a huge weekend locally for us. If you guys follow me at all, um, high school hockey is something near to my heart. So that's one of those things that I'll touch on tonight a little bit. And if you haven't had a chance to go out and see some games locally, I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you see. I mean that in all sincerity. First of all, speaking of high school hockey, our friends at Wealth Advantage Group, their nephew, pretty darn good player at Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard, and our buddies from the Wealth Advantage Group are Mike Husak and Jeff Husak. And if you are ready, sorry, Todd, to take charge of your financial future, look no further than those two cats right there. That's Mike Husak on the left, Jeff Husak on the right. They're located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those two brothers. Over 20 years of industry experience, they understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized, expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, if you're saving for retirement, you're getting ready to sell your company, you're already in retirement, these are guys that can and will help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life. They have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world is a complex one. I'm very thankful that I have these guys to watch over our finances. And if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. Reach out to Mike and Jeff at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574. Check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Appreciate those guys. Make sure that you tell them that we sent you. They'll take care of you. You'll probably get a free lunch out of it too. Soft as Charmin, except Mo cider. And I do like the Brinket's feistiness. The Lord help the league when Soderbaum realizes his physical potential. You know what's funny, Mike? This is what I think of Elmer. I think that Elmer is a good piece. I don't think he's going to be like special or anything like that. I think he's a good piece with a very distinct advantage with his height and his reach. Does that make sense? And I'm not accusing you of this. I think we're all guilty in these parts of sometimes overrating some of the guys that we get. And I think in the decade of the teens, the Red Wings were very, very, very guilty of overrating their talent. How many defensemen did you hear future Norris Trophy winner? I remember people telling me Timo Pulkkinen. Do you remember him? Do you remember Timo Pulkkinen? Was a bona fide 30-goal scorer. Somebody actually, I'm not making this up, somebody actually compared Mikael Samuelsson and Pulkkinen, I'm not making this up, to Mike Bossy. So my friends and I would call them Mike Bossy Samuelsson and Timo Bossy Pulkkinen. We're a little guilty of doing that. And I think some of the stuff that comes from the franchise itself, there's a little bit of a propaganda, and you guys understand that. So I think we can all have a tendency of overrating guys a little bit. That's not to say that he doesn't have a part on this team. That's not to say that there isn't a distinct advantage for a guy like that. You know what I mean? Wings get a 4th-round pick while trading who the hell knows what. Can we call him Trader Steve yet? I'm waiting too, because again, all I can do is judge Steve by the moves he makes. Because anybody that tells you that they know what Steve's going to do isn't being honest. Steve is notorious for keeping his cards close to the vest. And it looks like a move's happening. You know, when you take a look at the last couple of moves, it makes me think that a move's happening, but I don't know. You know when he really started to do it, though? When he started to have all the assets in place in Tampa, right? When they became a good team. before they became a great team, because they were a good team for a little while. And then they had that one magical run with Ben Bishop, and then it took them a little while to get back, and they were waiting for Vasilevsky. But my goodness, he made some deals. He did, and he fleeced a few guys as well. But I will say this until I'm blue in the face. You can't get something unless you're willing to give up something. And you guys, if you're turning into this, you're smart. That is so, I can't believe I just said that. But you're not the slapdick that, yeah, you know what? Why don't we get Bedard for comp for and comp? You know what I mean? You wouldn't be wasting your time doing something like this, watching something like this. So we got to get to that point. Well, what are you prepared to lose, right? And I think that's going to be interesting to see how that happens. Look at Shane Wright, pick 4th, spent 2 years in the AHL, finally in the NHL full time. And Tom, to that point, remember, Shane Wright was supposed to be the bona fide number 1 pick. He was supposed to be the bona fide number 1 pick. There were people talking about a 19-year-old kid and throwing the B word around. Think about how insane that is. Because you know as well as I do, we can't show patience today as sports fans. I always laugh. Sorry to go back to football. Nobody will admit it today. Nobody will admit it today. But I lived it. Todd, do you know how many people said that Darius Slay was a bust after his rookie year? I dealt with it every day. Every single day. I'm not joking. And that's why if you listen to me at all, and Shep and I had this conversation last month. Look, the 2024 class from Brad Holmes today doesn't look all that good, okay? Good, bad, or indifferent, give a draft class a couple years before you start to make those adjustments. I say it all the time. Go back and look at Matt Millen's drafts. Google is your friend. You could go search 2005 NFL draft grades, 2006. You wouldn't believe the great draft grades that Matt Millen got. Now, I read them. It's an exercise in futility, but I read them nonetheless. But that's why I'm a firm believer. Let's whoa, pull back on the reins a little bit. Let's give this a little time to develop and see what happens, right? And that's even with the NFL, guys. With, again, 23, 24-year-old guys. 22, 23, 24. In the NHL draft, you're talking about 18-year-old kids. Let's talk about Lindsey Broadwell. When it comes time to get yourself a new house, whether you're buying, you're selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? That lady right there, Lindsey Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. Now, when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Just make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. 2 more times with Carolina. David, I'm telling you, look at their schedule. I mean, you're talking about a 600, just under 600 winning percentage for the rest of their schedule. Austin, always like when you chime in. For me, the issue is you have great young farm. Great. Trade some of them for assets. If everyone hits, you won't be able to pay them all in a few years anyway. This isn't unique to Detroit. Dallas has some good young guys in the A. Don't know their cap situation, but if I'm a Stars fan, I'm yelling, trade them too. Let's go win a cup. I get your point. Obviously, the Stars are, further along that road. And I think to that point, Austin, you have to remember with a team like the Stars, their goal was to win the Stanley Cup this year. I think they're at 2 different places, but that doesn't make your point wrong. Trust me, I'm watching this with Montreal. And if you don't take my word for it, go look. Look at, they're loaded. They are loaded. Some of the guys are there right now and performing at a high level. Lane Hudson comes to mind. He could win the Calder. I'm not sure he will, but he could win the Calder. I think Celebrini will get it. And then there's just a ton of stuff. A Russian that everybody's oohing and on about. Guys that, Tom, if you're still watching, Logan Mayu from London, kid, stud, right? So to your point, Austin, you're right. This is where all that advanced scouting you did has to pay off. Now you have to look at what you have, some of the pieces you have, and say, who would we be okay with jettisoning out of here? I have two defensemen. I have Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. I like them both. I think Todd Losey's going to be better. That Baligian guy, there's something wrong in his head. Something broke. So you know what? You look to do that. The Vikings did pass on Losey to grab Milky Waters in case you missed it. They did. So Austin, dude, I agree with you. But this is, again, one of the Steve Yzerman things, right? Steve isn't afraid to make a deal that people, he isn't afraid to make that deal, right? Not at all. Remember Anthony Mantha? Honest to goodness, a year before he traded Anthony Mantha, who thought that he would trade Anthony Mantha? Now, the Mantha saga grew old on people the more you watched him. But I think you understand my point. Well, he was going to be one of the big pieces around here. Part of the big turnaround, right? Shawnee Yo, what's up? Hey, how are you? Noah said, should we draft a new defensive end with our draft picks or trade them away for someone like Myles Garrett to fill in our defense? I would go get Myles Garrett in a heartbeat. I know we're talking puck, but I would go get Myles Garrett in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think twice about it. And it's funny. Well, don't you trust Brad Holmes? No, I do trust Brad Holmes. 100%. If Brad Holmes doesn't want to do that, I'm not going to complain at Brad Holmes. But you know what? I know what Myles Garrett is, man. And I know that that's a guy that wants to go win. He said so. Oh, I'm guilty. Total homer here. We all are. Seriously, we all are. Anthony Mantha was the next Rick Nash. I just saw that, Austin. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Where's Mike? He's at a hockey game. Skydog said, have had that trading philosophy, can't get quality without giving it up since I played fantasy football nearly 30 years ago. Those who make ridiculous all-pro for 2 or 3 bench warmers. Trade ideas should try fantasy football and see how far those proposals get. Every now and again, you fleece a guy. Every now and again, it happens. And if you look back, listen, Steve fleeced the Habs. He did. He gave up Drouin, got Sergachev, fleece job. Absolute fleece job. I get erotic feelings watching Lane Hudson skate. He is so exciting. Like every single night. It is. So I've said this before, especially the year he was drafted. Some of you go, I still can't believe that the Wings passed up on Quinn Hughes. I can't. It blows my mind that you see how important a guy like that is in today's game. Quinn Hughes first at NTDP and then obviously at Michigan. Quinn Hughes is one of the most beautiful, effortless skaters I've ever seen, and Lane Hudson isn't too far behind. My goodness gracious. Now, I wasn't calling the games when Lane was there. I was calling them when Quinn was there. Just effortless. Beautiful. I'm Austin, as weird as it sounds, I'm with you. When you watch that stuff, sometimes you're just like, oh. One shift, just one shift. Dear Lord, I don't ask you for much. One time in my life, once, let me know what it's like to have a shift like that. Even if it's in my beer league game, even if it's in a building where nobody else is there, just let me do that one time in my life. Right? It's incredible. Has Yzerman made a big trade at the deadline? I don't think a big trade because Coach Hunter, and I'll see you tomorrow as well. Todd, we're having another sausage fest before we go over to the rink. More on that in a second. I know how you love a good sausage fest, Todd. Let's be completely honest, okay? Love them. It's changed. Do you remember trade deadline used to be a national holiday? TSN servers would literally go down. Just like Canada Day, July 1. Smart teams lock up the studs. That doesn't mean you can't get value. I go back to last year, a year ago at this time. Todd, you can vouch for this. Mike and I were doing the show right before the trade deadline, and I thought Florida made a magnificent move, grabbing a guy by the name of, maybe you've heard of him, Vladimir Tarasenko. Thought it was a great move. Immediately thought it was a great move. And it was funny because Mike kind of gave me a look for a second, and I'm not trying to misrepresent Mike. And I said, no, Mike, because Tarasenko, his days of being that stud, like when he was with St. Louis, are over. His big body is part of a depth move, and to counter the Charmany softness of the New York Rangers was brilliant. I don't advocate signing him giving him $4.75 million and thinking that he's going to be anything more than a big body third liner. But on a team that's ready to go make that long run, because the run is indeed a marathon, I thought it was a great move. So in the spirit of that, Coach Hunter, I think you don't see those big moves too much anymore. Because teams, you see it all across the National Hockey League. You're given the guys, your core, those long-term contracts at $7, $8, $9 million. You're locking up those core players. That doesn't mean there can't be a fit. That doesn't mean that you can't. But in terms of like some of the blockbusters that we saw, I think for the foreseeable future, those days are gone, man. Go Habs, go. Yes. No sausage comment. When it comes to sausage, I love a messy two-hander. Tom said trade deadline day, people started watching at 10 a.m. Tom, I remember being at the Fan, and literally we are trying to keep up with the what was it called, the trade tracker, and the TSN server went down. Just down. All right, only got a couple more minutes, but I got to throw this out there. So, Todd, this is why we're having the Sausage Fest. Literally, 4 miles down the road from where I live, USA Hockey Arena, formerly CompuWare Arena, now the home of the NTDP. The high school semifinals and finals are this weekend. So having a few of the boys come over before we matriculate our way 4 miles down the road to watch it. But you know how we do. You guys have seen some of our watch parties. Grill, smoke. Tomorrow we decided to do Sausage Fest again because we have to have a quick meal and everything. Eat some sausages and then go watch the D2 semifinals. Pretty good game. Flint Powers, who's kind of been the perennial team to beat in Division II all year, taking on Granville from the west side. And then an epic nightcap tomorrow night. Livonia Stevenson taking on Birmingham Brother Rice. And then Division III gets underway Friday morning. That one is at 11 a.m. This should be a darn good one. Alpena making their trek down 23 to take on Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and then Cranbrook take on Jeffers, which is the story of the year. Like little Jeffers making a run to the Final Four at USA Hockey Arena has just been the story of the year. Division I, 2 damn good games tomorrow. Catholic Central taking on Sparta from the west side. And then the nightcap should be absolutely beautiful. One of the best goaltenders in the state, if not the best goaltender in the state, in Lansky for Howe and the Highlanders, taking on the high-flying best line in the state from Salem. It's outstanding. I'm telling you guys, am I biased? Yep, I'm biased. But I also hope you can trust me. If you haven't checked out the high school product in the state and you're a hockey fan, give it a try. Get out to USA Hockey Arena. You know, unfortunately, I can't tell you to get out to your neighborhood. Save that for next year, okay? But I'm telling you, I think you're going to be really surprised. Kids are moving on now. Kids are moving on to the NAL. Kids are moving on to the USHL. Kids are even moving on to the OHL. They're moving on to colleges. Yes, a few have even moved into the NHL. Kids that I followed at this level over the past decade are moving on to the NHL now. It's a pretty special place that seemingly gets better every year. The cream seems to keep rising to the top. So it's a heck of a lot of fun. So that's the way it is. Selfishly, I'm rooting for Agudas to get to Detroit. We may miss a playoff, but at least we'll get to watch him kill a few guys around the way. Michigan basketball is losing to Maryland. Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, one more thing before we get out of here. Got to tell you about All About Catering LLC. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal, so don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give Rick and his gang a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. So yes, indeed. Austin, to your point, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. Toughness is a choice. We're back to that point. Mike said, are you going to USA Arena for the D1 semis on Friday? Mike, you must have just jumped in. I'll give the whole, oh, I forgot Legacy, didn't I, Todd? I'll give the whole breakdown again. How could I do that to my friends at Legacy? I'll give the whole breakdown again. Tomorrow night it starts. You've got Granville taking on Flint Powers. The nightcap tomorrow night, Livonia Stevenson and Brother Rice. Classic KLAAMIHL. Then Friday morning, it's D3 semifinals. You got Orchard Lake taking on Alpena. You've got Cranbrook, the defending champs, taking on Jeffers. That should be epic. Jeffers is the story. The first one, Catholic Central, looking to win 6 in a row, I might add, taking on Sparta. And then the nightcap, I think the one that everybody is most – no, it's all right, Mike. Dude, it twists my arm. I get to pimp the high school hockey game again. The one that I think everybody's looking forward to, the contrast in styles, Salem with that high-flying line, probably the best line in the state with Kaminsky and Patel and Chaput, taking on Howell with the guy that might be the best goalie in the state in Lansky, and a team that plays so well defensively. I love it. Something for everybody. If you haven't been out there yet, honestly, you guys, I hope you know me by now. I'm not real good at BSing because I'm not real good at BSing. So I'm telling you right now, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Hey, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy to get help with their home and auto insurance? We did. And you know what? Our friends at Legacy Partners help me as they've helped hundreds and thousands of people in Southeast Michigan, because they're one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full service and one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. I'm telling you, Alex got all our information, and with a day, boom, said, this is what you need. This is what you got to do. They're thorough. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to save you money. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. Did I mention help save you some money? Doesn't everybody want to do a little bit of that right now? Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. So what are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Give them a jingle today, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. All right, so we're gone tomorrow. Mike, Coach Hunter, if you're still watching, and myself, we have the honor of selecting the all-tournament team. We've done this for a few years now. So, Todd, I'll see you in a few days, because, like, literally I'm going to be at the rink, I think, for 7 hours tomorrow. And then I'm going to be at the rink 12 hours on Friday, and then I'm going to be at the rink 12 hours on Saturday. Twist my arm. Ouch. Ooh, don't do that. No, I don't want to watch any more hockey. TNT talked about Rangers shutout streak, and boom, the Cap scored in the first shot of the game. You ever remember talking about something good or bad on the air and the opposite happens? More times than you can shake a stick at. Do you remember simple math? I gave the division to the Tigers in 2009. I hear about that 16 years later. More times than you can shake a stick at. All right, you guys, take care. Hope to see you at USA Hockey Arena. If you see me out there, stop by, say hello, and enjoy the action. Good luck to the Wings. I'm going to say it again. I think they're up against it. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that schedule isn't doing them a lot of favor, and some of the teams in the mix right now, certainly not doing them a lot of favors. Todd, thank you as always. Peace, you guys. See you. Bye.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.